So if everybody wants to just go on mute then, and I can start into a couple of things. I'll start easy, and I made a couple of recordings earlier of things that we could start off with. Okay, first one is so with a lot of funk stuff and a lot of drum patterns, it's like double kicks or things on the kick drum that really give it the feel, you know. So if you've like a lot of the time the snare will sit on the 1 2 4. It'll just sit and lock in on 2 and 4. So then when funk drummers are coming at things, or when not necessarily funk on its own, but whatever, if they're building a groove, a lot of the time it's done with the kick drum, and that kind of gives it the bit of flavor. So there was one I was listening to earlier with Bernard Purdie where he's going ga-gung, 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 ga. So the kick drum's going ba-bum, ba-bum, right? Ba-bum, ba-bum, da-dum, 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 da-dum. So when I'm recreating a drum groove, I'll like the detail that they're doing on the hi-hat is kind of like a middle tone, if you like, or just detail like ghost notes or whatever. And I don't get too obsessed about that. Generally, what I'd be trying to do is trying to like recreate the overall vibe, and that is often done by like the open note. So that open note, everybody hear that okay? Yeah. The open note is like your kick. So where that first groove there that we're talking about, ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. The main thing that you want to jump out there is that. So I'm going down, 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 down. You can play it down, up, whatever you want to do it. The groove is ba-bum, ba-bum, right? Ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. So I'd be going down, 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 up, ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. So between those kick notes and the snare note, there's room for kind of doing whatever you want. You know, you can play ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-da-da-da, ba-bum, ba-bum, da-da-da-da-da. Whatever. Don't worry too much about the sticking. The overall vibe should be ba bum ba bum ba. So it's like sometimes with the bodhrán we kind of get obsessed with playing, you know, with kind of starting, and then you kind of get into the way of playing, and you can end up sort of playing constantly, you know, and then if you play constantly, it's really hard to build groove. So what you want to do is like if you want something like that there to really pop out, you can take a lot of stuff out, and you can strip it way back, like, and the groove kind of benefits from having a bit of air, you know, and from not like kind of getting into the constant way of playing, you know. So it's totally fine if you want to lay down a groove that kind of jumps out to do like single hits, you know. You know, that's way easier for that to jump out and to pop rather than like, you know, if you're trying to squeeze it in with other emphasis and loads going on in between times, the groove doesn't really hop out, if that makes sense. So like, feel free, totally. There's more music nearly in taking it back and like giving it a bit of space, you know. So like, you'll find that as well with the drums, like that there. if they want a groove to jump out, they're never like drummers. The best of them are never playing like really heavy hi hat notes or like really heavy ghost notes. You know, they're making a groove kind of sing, like they'll be like digging into the kick drum and like taking back what they're doing with their hands, you know. And it's interesting to watch the likes of Bernard Purdie, because he'll just make the groove kind of sing. It's either, you know, he wants something to be heard, so he'll want the kick drum to be heard, or he'll be doing a groove with his hands that he wants to be heard, and something takes a back seat. So we can kind of take the same approach, like that. If you want something to really kind of sing and to pop out like and be a groove, you can kind of just take back a lot of the volume on the ghost notes and the rest of the stuff, and make the detail jump out, like make that real a concerted effort, like ba bum ba bum ga ba bum ba bum ga. That's how I want that to sound. So like don't confuse it with lots of other stuff. If that makes sense. So that's one of the first ones, like, and that you can use like for people that are playing Irishy stuff, of course, like 4/4, you know, you can throw that into a tune if you want, but it depends. It'll depend on the other backing in a session, or it'll depend on what you're doing. But for people that are backing things like songs or more contemporary music, or things that aren't in the Irish traditional lane, you know, or something that's a bit more left of center, that's a good one to do. And if you want to take back the intensity of it, maybe you can take that high note out of it and just make it a kind of a choke note in the middle. So like that might work for a song, say slightly slower, where you're going. So all I'm doing there, ba bum ba bum. So again, if I was playing with a singer, I might play with a brush or something a bit softer, you know, fa ba ba ba, da 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 da. So single hits, ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba. So a lot of the time, what you're trying to do, and this is a weird thing that it took me a long time to get my head around, and I'm still trying to get my head around it, is often the most musical thing that you can do on this instrument sometimes feels like the simplest thing. And it's just weird. You get to this stage where you get a certain amount of ability that you want to be able to do, you know, or you want to be able to play, and you want to be able to kind of show the world that this is what's going on, you know, with your standard of playing. But a lot of the time, the most musical choice can be a lot simpler than you make it for yourself, you know. And it took me a while to kind of learn that. You know, I'd be obsessed with doing like double downs or triple downs or whatever these things, and it a lot of the time you can't hear the difference when you hear it recorded, or when you hear it. It doesn't matter, and you nearly need to have a sounding board as somebody who doesn't have a clue what you're doing, but they just know what sounds right, you know. My wife's a singer, like, and she'll just be like, what are you doing over there? What are you doing over there? It's just, she'll be like, that's, if it's too busy, or it seems like, can you do something simpler, you know? And a lot of the time it is kind of back to, you know, real simple single hits a lot of the time, if you're backing something, is what I mean. So if you're backing something and you want to complement something, often it is taking it back and taking a simpler lane, unfortunately. So right, that's kind of number one. Okay, next one in terms of this one, another Bernard Purdie one. So he'd be playing with his kick, that would be the kick note, right? But then he'd be going da 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 da. So he's playing da 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 da. So it's like the groove is like open. So ba ba da ba ba da ba da ba So the way I'm playing that, sticking wise, if you want to, there's a few ways you can do it. Like you can play down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, that to get the, because it's on the offbeat, because it's not sitting on the second one's the offbeat. So you can play down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, or you can play down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So you hit the second accent on the upstroke if you don't want to do the double downs. Does that make sense? I'll show you both ways, kind of slow if you want to. You can go da ba da da ba da da ba down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. Or you can play down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So the main thing is that you're opening for those accents that gives it that kind of offbeat feel, that dagga da dagga da dagga dagga da dagga da dagga. So you see, when I'm playing this as well, and just it's I think it's important to note, I'm not playing every single note with the same weight. I'm not playing da ba da da ba da da ba da ba da ba da. You know, I'm playing. I'm missing a lot of those beats, and like I'm kind of breaking it up, like I'm really kind of picking it apart. So it's not like it's da ba da ba da. It's a feel like, so you can hit like down, up, down, just down, up, down. So whilst, and this is I think useful no matter what you're playing. You see, that sticking that I'm doing, if I were to play every note, it is just that straight down and up vibe, right? That's kind of the motion. But what I'm doing there is choosing, like, there's certain notes that I'm not playing. Now the movement, if you need to kind of rhythmically lock into that kind of thing, for, you know, to make sure that you're playing in time and to make sure that it kind of feels comfortable to you, that's fine to do that. There's no craziness there in terms of the sticking. But what I'm doing is making sure that I'm not hitting every single note or hitting every single note with the same weight, you know. So you can play it like, but the motion, watch my hand. The motion stays exactly the same, but I'm purposely just not hitting every single note with the same weight. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, in terms of learning it, it is just straight down and up. But the music is all in kind of what you're taking out of it, you know, and making those open notes really like sing and resonate, you know. So, ba, 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 da. Ba, 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 da. Ba, ba, ba. Ba, ba, ba. Ba, ba, ba. Ba, ba, ba. So the I'm gonna spotlight this video actually so we can see it. Same thing goes for, like, if you want to slow that down and play it with a brush, or play it something that's a wee bit that's more refined, like maybe for songs or for, I don't know. If you, it's really useful. Like, so, like, if you play slower, say subtler. So the main thing is you're getting down, up, down, or if you're playing something and want to make it real kind of funk level, you can go. That makes sense, that one. There are a couple of Bernard Purdie ones, which I love. I was telling everybody, I don't know if for anyone that wasn't on at the start there, that Funklet website, funklet.com, is a really, really good resource for drum ideas and for like funk ideas. It's just the drum patterns that they have on there, and the ones that they've chosen to slow down are brilliant. So I'll do a couple of those with you now. I'll just play this back to myself here for a sec. Bum. This one here, a Bernard Purdie one. Bum, 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 bum. So it goes bum, dum, bum, 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 so bum de 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 bum bum de bum 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 de bum. So it's like, so it's one de ba da da ba da 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 ba ba da 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 one ba. So he accents, opens the kick, or the kick for the first beat of the bar. So 1, 2 da da ba da da ba 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 da 1 ba. So it's one, so it's bum, bum, did bum, did bum, 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 did bum, bum, did bum, 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 did bum, bum. So it's the same thing where you're not really thinking about the sticking. Like the main thing that jumps out there to me is his kick pattern, which for a 4/4 kind of a funk groove is really unusual, that he's not sitting in the usual spot. So he's playing so really cool, that one. What was that? It's an Esther Phillips track. Use Me, it's called. Really good, really good. Then Clyde, there's a great drummer that played with James Brown, Clyde Stubblefield, who you might have heard that groove before, or it's a bit more recognizable maybe, from Cold Sweat. So that goes. So boom, da, so boom, bat, the boom, boom, ba, boom, bat, the boom, boom, ba, boom, boom, bat boom boom bat boom bat boom boom bat boom bat boom boom bat boom bat boom boom bat. So I'm playing boom bat boom boom bat boom bat boom boom bat boom boom bat boom boom bat boom bat boom boom bat boom boom bat boom boom bat boom bat boom boom bat boom boom. Hi John. Hi John.
Hi Eamon.
How are you? So again, the main thing that jumps out there, right? If you want to kind of get a breakdown of the groove, it's more like that you want the kick and the snare to pop out. So boom, get, boom, boom, get, boom, get, boom, boom, get, boom, boom, get, boom, boom, get, boom, get, boom, boom, get, boom, boom, get, boom, boom, get, boom, get. So again, start slow, like and work your way up. And there's no kind of set speed for this or set context for it, if you know what I mean. You kind of just take it wherever you want to go, and it might only be you might only use the first half of that, or you know, it might just be the start of another idea for yourself. But like if I was using that, I might use it in a reel, maybe in a session possibly. But I would say if I was doing something like that where it's not as regular, I would probably use it to set up a piece of music, or use it as an intro idea or a groove idea that you could kind of build on, rather than, you know, sticking it into the box of Aaron-Moore, if you know what I mean. It mightn't just sit necessarily into a session reel. But if you wanted to kind of do an idea that was interesting in 4/4, that's kind of a good way to start. So again, like all the ornaments and stuff that you already know, like double-ended rolls or single-ended rolls or other things like that, you can kind of just start to insert into the groove. So you can play like boom, ga, boom, boom, ga, boom, ga, digga, dum, dum, ga, diddly, dum, ba, boom, boom, ba, boom, ba, digga, dum, dum, ba. Another thing that I find changes the groove completely is, like, you see your snare sound, inverted commas, you know, that high note that you want, like, it changes the intensity of the groove depending on where you place that, you know. If you make that just like a choked kind of a middle note, it makes it a lot more subtle than if you make it a really high, bright note. And just like, if you just hear the difference, like you can make that same groove at the same tempo sound really differently by just where you place this hand. I'll just play it for you here so you can hear. So if I play versus drummers will often do that as well. Like they'll have their usual bright snare and then a side snare that's maybe that's tuned lower or tuned way higher or whatever they want to do. And it's kind of the same principle. Like if you want that to really crack, like you would kind of, you go up for that higher note. And if you wanted just to kind of sit underneath it and just be maybe something that's a bit subtler. Go for kind of like a middle tone, and that snare note then is kind of a bit more bedded in, or you know yourself, like it would depend on what context you're playing in. Like if you're playing songs or playing backing to somebody where you're the only person backing, I generally wouldn't be doing those really high cracks, I just wouldn't. Like if you're backing something where you want to kind of you just want to sit underneath it and just provide a groove, then I wouldn't be cracking those grooves out. It's each context is different. But I mean, if I was playing a gig or playing like in some context where it was like, I don't know, a bit more of a free for all or a bit more of a solo effort, then you can do what you want, But that's up to you to kind of be sort of sensitive to who you're playing along with. But if you're getting any sharp looks, it's generally maybe I'll take it down a bit, or take the, I'll not play that note as high. Sometimes, like if you're cracking, like if you're playing that crack, it can be kind of an unwelcome thing, or it can be perfect. It's up to yourself. It's like tuning a snare. Like, and the more I play drums, the more I kind of know that like you really do have to sit and kind of tune the kit depending on who you're playing with or what you're doing. Like you can't go in with the same tension in the snare to every single gig. It just doesn't work. Sometimes you just like if you're playing with songs that are just more lo-fi, you have to really tune it down. Or if it's an all night kind of crank it out gig, you have to tune the snare way up. And the same kind of principle goes like the groove is only the groove if it's grooving, and that's kind of. So whilst the sticking's one thing and knowing where to open your hand is another thing, that the detail and the where you place the snare sound is another important one. Right. The other one that I wanted to show you, it's a bit trickier, but it's really, really good. Like in terms of like the top of the tree of like the funky ones, like, or ones that you want to kind of cook along. This is my favorite one. It's like a shuffle, a drum shuffle. As a shuffled hi-hat, a long note and a short note, ta-ta, right? If you want to recreate that kind of vibe, the shuffle vibe on the Boron, the sticking, I play up down, da-dum, to recreate that kind of hi-hat, ta-ta. I play up down. So your long note and your short note there, right? So you can play like. So it's that da ta da cha ba da. So it's up down, top, up down, top, up down, top, to give it that kind of that kind of vibe, right? Now, anybody that plays drums will know, like, there's no end to where you can start to accent the kick drum in the shuffle. So you can play so I'm playing so those two down beats, for example, you can play down. So catching those two down beats on an open note. So if you play kit, like you can play bump, like dum dum da dum dum. So the same thing on the Boron, like you just decide when you get into that groove, into that shuffle groove, where you want to open your hand to give it that kick note accent, right? So you can play like just single if you want, or you can play bum bum. can play bum bum bum. So I'm catching that open, that up down down. So that then that bum 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 is up down down on the open note then. So once you lock into this groove, like you can kind of keep it going and just kind of get that shuffle vibe going, right? And then it's a case of where am I taking my hand off here? So the easiest one I think is that one. Or single. Bum 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 bum. Does that make sense? Yeah, thumbs up, thumbs down. What? So once you start to kind of lock into that groove, right? And this is where I think it gets tricky to kind of make it really sing. If you play like, if you want the groove to sound like bum bum ba bum bum, right? That involves you going. So up down, up down, up down. So what you're doing is catching the up down. So it's two up down. So up down, right? You catch the first two on with an open note, close the fourth beat and open, or close the third beat and open the fourth beat. So it's so up down, up down. So it's like 1 2 3 4. So 1 2 3 4. So the sticking is just up down, up down. So first two open, third one closed, last one open. Up down, up down. So the difference between getting that note closed and leaving it open is really drastic. Like, so if I go versus the other is just 4 open beats and you don't get the definition of ba bum ba bum. That's where it kind of gets the groove. So up down, top, the bum bum da, up down, top. So that's kind of the trickiest part within this, in my opinion, that up, down, up, down. So sorry, right? But always when I'm playing this stuff, right, or when I'm thinking about it, I'm only thinking about how I want it to sound. I honestly, hand on heart, can tell you that I never sat there and thought, at the back, this is what I need to do with my hand. Off for this, no, off for it. I'm only breaking it down for you like now because we're doing this Zoom lesson. But generally, I would think about it like, okay, I want that beat to be like ba bum ba bum cat dum dum cat ba bum ba bum, and be driven by the sound that I'm making rather than what my hand at the back is doing. If you get me. Just in terms of thinking about it, like if you start to think about when your hand's off and on at the back, it'll grind to a halt, and you'll just stop, getting any better at it, and you'll get frustrated with it. In my opinion, I think it's just a case of like feeling it out and knowing how you want the overall thing to sound, and then it's just like small blocks that you kind of, steps that you'll take, and then eventually it'll kind of get there. Like if you start with the sticking of that ba 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 ga ba 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 ga ba 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 ga ba 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 ga, right? Start with that, get that up to speed, and then introduce like the single hits. Even if you get that one, ba bum ba bum, or down 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 down, like down up down. If you can get on and off, like, and just think about kind of open versus closed and how that sounds rather than what it looks like at the back, if you know what I mean. The funkiest variation of all is like a string of those then. Ba-bum, 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 right? And I'll show you, I'll kind of do like a run into them. So what I'm doing there for that, right, is the first up, down, open, up, down, right? Right, up, down, up, down, up, up. So first up, down, open. The rest of the ups are closed. So up, down, up, down, up, down. So I'm going bum ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. Up, down, up, down, up, down. So up, down, up, down, up, down. So those ups are closed, you know, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So what you're left with then is at the end, and when you get it up to speed, is the funkiest of all, in my opinion. So it's got that bum ba donk, ba dum ba dum ba donk, ba dum ba dum ba donk, and it really sings like. Now the sticking is just that. Up down, up down, up down, up down, up down, up down. So if you can get that really like shuffly, you're halfway there. And all I'm doing after that is making sure that that groove really kind of sings. And the way to do that is to try and hit those kick notes, if you like. And like if you go from it's a funkiest thing if you go from like not doing the accent to starting to bring it in, it just takes it up a level. Like if I play it flat, okay, I'll play it with no accents. Hopefully you can hear what I'm doing here. So no open notes. So that, do you hear the way that kind of sings? Like that open note really makes it like come to life. So and the way I mute the drum there, the way I mute the drum, Darrell, is like you do it this way with your hand that way. Okay, okay, gotcha. And that's another thing. Like, I mean, the same goes with this hand. Like, there's no right or wrong way of doing it. I would never tell anybody like, you know, don't hold the stick that way, or don't put, you know, whatever works for you. Like, all you want to do, and it can be the subtlest of things. Like, don't get distracted by my hand there and the way it looks. You know, just think about how you give the drum a bit more resonance. Resonance is all you're after, and that might be lifting a thumb, or it might be, you know, lifting the heel of your hand, or lifting it, I don't know, whatever, taking your fingers off, whatever it is, just to give it that bit more resonance and to make it like the kick drum, you know. Now you see within that pattern there, I was doing down up down down as like a variation. You'll hear that on the drums a lot of the time where they go, you know, just something to kind of just a variation and ornament, you know. So I'm going down up down down. If I'm playing anything funky or anything that's kind of got that groove, I'll always do that rather than a double-ended roll. It just gives it more of a. It's just more definite. Down up down down. So I'd be going down down ba 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 da ba da down down da ba da ba da ba down down up down down. So. So that you can hear how that groove is really like shuffly rather than, or you know, straight down and up like that. That it's the sticking's the same really, like but the groove and the shuffle like ba 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 ba. Don't be afraid to get stuck into it. You know, when you're practicing it, like that's such a definite sound, the shuffle, that if you kind of have to go for it or not, you know, because you either lock into it and kind of go shuffling or just play straight, you know. But it's a commitment, and like I think it's a good exercise to practice if you want to kind of build groove that isn't just 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 da, 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 you know. It's a very, very different 4/4 kind of a sound than you would generally hear on the bodhrán, you know. Because if somebody said play something in 4/4 there, 90% of bodhrán players are going to go, you know, because it's kind of what we're used to. But like that is just as applicable. All right, does that make sense? That's about as tricky as it gets in terms of like these grooves. I think today, I think that's about as tricky as it gets. And the trickiest part is just making it really sing. The sticking isn't too bad, and like anything, you can like just practice the sticking first until that really locks in and it feels like you're understanding the groove, you know, ba-ba-ba-back, ba-ba-ba-ba-back. Once that starts to kind of lock in, you can start to kind of look at the accents and just do it gradually, you know, see how it feels. Would you use that in a hornpipe or just more contemporary stuff? You could use it in a hornpipe, yep. You could use it in a hornpipe for sure. Certainly that ornament, I do use it, like I have done, and depends on the speed of the hornpipe. Like the hornpipe's a funny one, like if you're playing Irishy stuff, because some people play a hornpipe just like a reel, you know. But if it's got the dot in it, like if it's the way it should be played, you can't shuffle it for sure. You know, it depends. It's hard for me to imagine it playing in a hornpipe, but it would work absolutely. I just don't play many hornpipes anymore. I'm just usually just get sucked into, you know, watching Bernard Purdie. What would Bernard Purdie do? That's kind of where I go. But it's absolutely applicable. If the hornpipe is dotted for sure, that would work definitely. So that works. What was the other one? So Cold Sweat. I had a Tony Allen one. can see you all hearing that one already. Like, it's just, there's so much scope in 4/4, like that we don't ever do, you know. Like, it's just the instrument doesn't do it. It's not our fault. It's not the genre's fault. It's just relatively new, and the context of playing it has always been jigs and reels, you know. But the drums are they're just way more. There's just way more history with them and way more incorporation into other genres and stuff. Like, so whenever you get somebody like Tony Allen who's coming at it from a completely different continent, you know, and world, it's just like a whole different genre, that his go-to thing in 4/4 is, it's really interesting compared to what we're listening to, you know. So he's playing. So it's the same thing, just so I'm playing down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So I'm playing all those open notes are all down, up every time. Again, all this stuff is on funklet.com, you'll see, and you can slow them down for yourselves. Like, and even if you can just get there or thereabouts, and this is the whole point, like, that's just a groove that there's no right or wrong way for us to stick it, because, you know, it's come from somebody who's playing the kit. So all we're trying to do is just like recreate that groove. So somebody said to me, like, now, okay, here's a 4/4 piece. Can you do something that's interesting for it? Like, that is, to me, is like, so it's like the detail in between times as well. What you do in between times kind of can be up to yourself. It doesn't really harm the groove. Like, the groove there is da-dum, da-da-da, da-dum, da-da-da, da-dum, da-da-da, da-dum, ba-ba-ba-ba. So if you play da-dum, ba-ba-ba, da-dum, ba-da-da-da, da-dum, ba-ba-ba, da-dum, ba-da-da-da, if you want to do that, that's cool as well. Like, does that make sense? It's just, it's a cool option, like, to go to. These are, is there a universal drum language, or did I just make it up? I just make it up. Well, there is, I'm sure there are lots of drum languages, but we haven't really got one for the Boron yet. A few people have tried, but I don't know, I just kind of sing it. But the Indian way of playing tabla is probably the most effective, that where they do, you know, the takadimi, takada, Jonah, you know, or ta, and that's really, really effective. It's a hard one for us, because we're like, we don't know. A treble or a triple is like diddly, and, you know, it's all like, I don't know. It's all it's a hard one to know what to do with. A few people have tried, but the systems aren't just right yet. I think about it very much in terms of, like, drum kit, like that snare sound, middle sound, and the low end, you know, being the kick there. But but it's the best that I have at the minute. I'll show you one more here for that might be useful. Where is it? I think it's another Tony Allen one, is it? It is. That's one. So it's that kind of feel there. So the same thing applies, like you getting into a 4/4 thing, which is just constant. That all works because if you think about it, if we play the boron on 4/4, we play every single note. Like you're playing every single note. You're already doing that. You know what I mean? That's every single beat that's possible within that bar. So all these grooves, we just have to figure out then when to start taking our hand away, what not to play and what to accent. You know what I mean? So once we're locked into 4/4, we're locked in. Like we know, okay, 4/4 is da 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 da, right? So then we're just kind of stripping it back from there. So that one is just remind me stuff again. So the point being is that I would catch that offbeat on the upstroke, or what would be like if I were just playing it straight up. If you want to be really crass about it, it would be that. So catching like down, up, down, but that doesn't make the groove jump out, right? So I'll be thinking. So, but in my head, in my virtual boron head, my hand is going like that solidly. If you get me, you know what I mean. I know that I'm in time. I know where the one is. So. So you're just catching that down, up, down, down, up, down. And all those things in between are like ghost notes, you know, they're like small details, and they're not really critical to the groove. You know, the critical part of the groove are those kick notes, you know. Yeah, is there a second pattern we can work where the kick accents are in downstrokes yet? You can play down, down, which would be down, up, down, down. You can play down, down, down if you want. So it would be like down, 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 but the first, so down, the middle down would be choked then, and so open, closed, open. If you wanted to do it that way, down, 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 down. So open, close, open. If you wanted to do it that way, it feels a bit unnatural to me, but that's just that'll work. Down, down, down. To me, it works better just with the accent on the up. if you want to go and have a bit of crack with yourself, like in terms of Lakuti with Tony Allen on the drums, it's just it's amazing music, and the energy of it, and just where the drum sits, he never locks into the, you know, a rat-ta-ta-ta, 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 you know, it just never goes to that place. It's always like ba 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 ba. It's really funky, like, and there's a lot of offbeat stuff in it, and it's just a really interesting way that he constructs the groove. Hopefully all of this kind of makes a bit of sense. That Funklet website as well is a really useful resource. The up accent is essential in that groove too. It's true, like the up, when you think about this relative to the drum kit, like, and that a lot of it we overlook. The upstroke like represents a full other hand, you know, if you're comparing like for like, you know. So that's why, like, say in that shuffle groove, it's really important that you dig into that, like, because otherwise it doesn't feel like a shuffle, you know. We're just kind of programmed to just always sit on the downbeat, you know, and the upstroke can kind of just be by the way, you know. But if you commit yourself to doing a shuffle, you know, if you commit yourself to grooves that kind of really involve the upstroke, it can only be a good thing for us in terms of like advancing, like, and really kind of laying it down. I think there's so much scope there that's untouched. Like, that's really from one resource, like from one drumming resource. It's really useful. And like my references for drums would be the likes of Steve Gadd and Tony Royster Jr. and these amazing players. Like, but in terms of laying it down and a different way of looking at the groove, Tony Allen's unbelievable, and Bernard Purdie. But that's kind of what I do, is sit and just watch drummers and kind of get jealous. These people inspire me to give up the drums. So hopefully all of this is of use. I'll fire through this this video after we're done here.